All right, folks, some weird card review schedule stuff going on. Stayed up all night last night for a card reveal that never hit, but instead today we get a surprise card from Reddit, and I'm afraid it might be one of the worst cards I've seen in a while.
Hey, buddy, watch this.
Yeah, so two cards to talk about here. If you're short on time, you just want to see them, hit the quick reviews link in the description below. Otherwise, let's jump into some detailed reviews. So this here is the surprise card. It's the Desert Obelisk, a 5-mana 0/5 neutral minion. If you control 3 of these at the end of your turn, deal 5 damage to a random enemy. And at a surface level on its own, this card is just unplayably bad. I mean, it's just miserable because it doesn't do anything on its own, right? It requires all kinds of setup and support and synergy to turn into maybe a mediocre card. It's just a 0/5, right? So you have to have 2 other Desert Obelisks to make this do anything. And even then, if you set that up, they're each going to deal 5 damage to a random enemy, which still sounds pretty weak. That's like, I'm going to kill a random minion, it's going to hit a 1/1, and maybe deal 5 damage to the face. Now, theoretically, in some insane world, if you were able to summon like 7 of these, then you would deal 35 damage to random enemies. That might get exciting, because you could, maybe deal 35 to the opponent's face if they don't have any cards, clear minions times a couple and do 25 damage, etc. There are some intriguing possibilities where you can summon copies of these, and I think Priest is the class that comes to mind for doing that with cards like, Unsleeping Soul, but then that Silence is one of them, and there's like Mass Resurrections and stuff that could get you multiple copies. But every time I try to think of a combo that works, it just seems like, my God, you're putting in so much work, so many other cards, so much support for a result that best case is like 5 damage or 15 damage if you get all 3. That just doesn't seem worth it to me, right? There's so many other things you could do for damage or board clears. So unless some very, very specific card comes along that sets this up, it just seems like it's so much extra work, so hard to deal with. And if it did like 15 damage on its own, I'd get exciting. Maybe 10 damage on its own, right? Then you'd have like a 30 damage, 3 of them. That would be pretty intriguing. But at 5, I just don't feel like there's enough upside there. It feels like you're just not getting any reward for all of this freaking work. So Desert Obelisk, to me, both at a surface level and then even considering the implications and the possibilities, it just looks really, really weak. And then moving on here to the Bazaar Mugger. Actually recorded a review for this one last night, but I would have had a different colored shirt, so we'll go at it again. It's a 5-mana 3/5 minion for Rogue with Rush. And the battle cry reads, add a random minion from your hand, or from another class, to your hand. So there's basically 2 things with this card, right? You've got the tempo side of it, which is the Rush 3/5, and you've got a little bit of a value resource generator, which is getting the random card added to your hand. Theoretically good for Burgle Rogue decks that are looking for other class cards to use. But I think there are a couple challenges on both of those angles. So I don't think a 3/5 Rush is that exciting for 5 mana. When I compare it to a card like Militia Commander that's really, really strong at 4 mana, that is able to take so many more favorable trades, where 3 attack isn't quite as nice of a break point. It's still killing a lot of 3/3s out there, but it's not getting into that bigger stuff or helping you trade into things like Mountain Giants as effectively, for instance. So it feels like it's just not quite good enough at the 5 mana spot. And then when I look at the Battlecry aspect, you're getting a minion added to your hand instead of a spell, which I think is far weaker than something like Hinge-Clan Burglar. Spells, on average, I think Rogue likes to utilize more. They just have more synergies. There's more reactivity. Fits the playstyle of the class a little better. And then beyond that, it's a random one instead of a discovered one. So the battle cry here is like a million times worse than Hinge-Clan Burglars, right? You're getting way better things on average than Hinge-Clan Burglar, and you're getting to pick which one you want, which means it has greater flexibility in the moment. This is just going to give you often random garbage, and the high roll legendaries aren't going to be worth all the random junk minions that you could get added into your pool that don't synergize with you because they're from another class. So what that means is it doesn't do either of its things particularly well. Now, that said, it's still doing 2 pretty good things. So I don't think there's anything wrong with this card necessarily. Like if you just break it down, it's got a few different positive directions that it's going in. It's going to make some kind of positive impact on your game plan. The question is for me, is it better than other alternatives? It's just kind of feeling like it does everything on an average level, but it doesn't specialize in any one thing. And probably decks are going to find cards that better fit their game plan than something like this. If they need a rush minion, they're going to go for a good rush minion. If you need value generation, you might go for more reliable value generation instead of kind of splitting the difference. So a fine card in a lot of ways, just not a particularly compelling one. So that wraps it up for our detailed reviews. Now let's jump into the quick reviews. Desert Obelisk is a 1-star card. Bazaar Mugger is a 3-star card. Yeah, I thought about giving the Obelisk 2 stars because, maybe there's some potential combo that Blizzard is building towards, but it just seems so unlikely and so difficult that at this point I didn't even feel good giving it 2 stars. It really does feel like a 1-star card, but listen, I'd love to be proven wrong. Please figure it out. Please make it a deck. Please make me eat my words on this one. That's the kind of card that would be hilarious to see succeed. That said, if you guys have ideas, thoughts on these cards, share those in the comments below. But until then, thanks much for watching, and until next time, game on.